Ron, I've got to fire you.
Well, I've got to fire you. Bing, boom, boom.
You're fired, Ed.
Imagine this, you go to work every day, trying to sell to your company, trying to work hard for the boss, and one day you get a letter for jury duty. And so you tell your boss, like, hey, I gotta take off tomorrow, I gotta go to jury duty. And your boss is really upset, he's like, no, you can't go, you gotta do this big project tomorrow, you cannot go to jury duty. And so you, being a smart person you are, you decide to go to jury anyway, because you don't want to get in trouble with the courts. And I'd rather be in trouble with my boss than be in trouble with the courts. You made the right decision. So you go the next day, and then you come back the day after, and your boss like, you went to court anyway, I told you not to. And he fires you. Congratulations, you now have a wrongful termination case, and now you can sue your employer. So this video is about how can you sue your employer, and I'll take that as what claims you can have against your employer if you think you have a case to sue your employer. Two main claims that I know of that you can sue your employer for, or two areas of law that I know of, and that's workers' comp when you're injured and wrongful termination. And workers' comp, you work in the factory, machine crushes your hand, or you're working at work and you trip and fall over something while you're working at work. And so those are workers' comp claims. And so, but I'm gonna focus more on wrongful termination because that's workers' comp is kind of self-explanatory. Now, it's a separate process from the traditional personal injury process because you got to go to workers' comp route, but it's kind of self-explained. It is what it says. If you're injured on the job, you got to do a workers' comp claim. Wrongful termination is a little bit more different. It's more its own area of law, and there's a lot of humps, hoops, and hurdles you got to jump through a workers' comp claim. Wrongful termination is governed by federal statutes and state statutes. Wrongful termination under federal statutes is usually for against discrimination. So race, sex, age, disability, and a few more things out there. Retaliation, whistleblower laws. That's under federal statutes for wrongful termination. In Mississippi, wrongful termination is not necessarily wrongful termination, but claims you can have against your employer are breach of contract claims. Hey, I have a contract with you guys, and my contract is supposed to last a year, and it's in the contract. If you think about firing me, I'm supposed to have a hearing, and so, but you guys didn't let me have a hearing and fire me without cause. And so that's breach of contract claim against your employer, but you have to have a contract. You can't be like an hourly worker and have a state wrongful termination case. Another one is when it's in the interest of justice. Goes to my example. You get fired because you went to court. Your employer is trying to stop the interest of justice. He's trying to stop that. And so that's illegal. You cannot do that in Mississippi. Also, let's say if this kind of goes on retaliation, but I think the state claims for it too in Mississippi, is if you report illegal activity on your job. You see somebody selling weed and you tell the boss that somebody was selling weed and the boss fires you. That's a potential wrongful termination claim. And it has to be done by somebody else on the business. You can't, if you get fired from reporting a customer for selling weed, I don't think that's a wrongful termination claim. But I know it's usually when somebody else in the business is doing that. So if you think you have a potential wrongful termination claim under things that I've said, if you're in Mississippi, or the federal claims if you anywhere in America, first thing you want to do is consult with a lawyer, and so you can be advised about the claims that you have in your state. Also, you want to come up with your goal. Okay, so do I want my job back or do I want some money? Which one you want? You want to know what you want when you start a wrongful termination claim. Wrongful termination cases are kind of tough to prove because there's so many steps that you have to go through when you're doing the claim, and it's you hit with so many deadlines that could hurt your case. So when you have a potential wrongful termination claim in Mississippi, what I usually tell my clients to do is, number one, if it's against the government, or even if it's not against the government, I always instruct them to, if they have a contract, to do the grievance process that's in their employee handbook. And so your employee handbook say, hey, if you don't like what your boss says or telling you to do, you have to write agreements to your boss and wait on their response within 3 days. That you don't like that, your boss says to your agreements, you do it to the supervisor. You don't like what the supervisor says, you do it to the owner of the company. If you don't like what the owner says, then you appeal to the chancellor clerk or something, or you ask for a board meeting if you're a school board. And then after you do that, then you start the legal process. Also, you want to reach out to EEOC, because in Mississippi, I think you only got like 6 months from the time of the incident. So if I'm discriminated against today, then I got 6 months from today to contact the EEOC. And so the EEOC, they're going to do an investigation to determine if they believe there was some discrimination against you. And so if they don't believe there was some discrimination against you, they're going to give you a charge which says, hey, you have the right to sue this employer. So you want to do your administrative appeals and you want to do your EEOC complaint. And then if you are not satisfied with the results of those two, you want to file your lawsuit. Now, of course, the statute of limitations tomorrow, go ahead and file your lawsuit. And so with statute of limitations, you want to make sure to check with your, the attorney that you consult with in your state. Because I know in Mississippi, if I have a lawsuit against a government agency, I only got 1 year. And so you want to be real mindful of that statute of limitations. So to sum it up, if you want to sue your employer, you want to consult with a lawyer in your state. You want to go through the administrative process. And then you want to go through the EEOC. You feel like you have been discriminated against and you want to file your lawsuit. And the reason you want to do the administrative process, because the defense sometimes argue in cases like, hey, you didn't go through the administrative process before you filed this lawsuit. You didn't let us know that it was a problem before you filed this lawsuit. Then you want to do the EEOC thing, because sometimes if the EEOC finds that there was some discrimination, then you get this thing settled through the EEOC. One of the best cases that I had was a discrimination case, and the EEOC found that it was some discrimination, and we settled that before we even filed a lawsuit, and it settled for a decent amount. So I would recommend you do the EEOC, and I would recommend you do the administrative process, okay? But consult with a lawyer, okay? I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. These are just legal tips and what I think people should do in a wrongful termination case. And so these cases in Mississippi, they usually settle based on how much money you miss. So you make $100,000 a year, you get fired, so you miss 6 months of work that was in your contract. And so half 100,000 is 50,000. So the case might sell for $50,000. Anywhere from 25 to 50 because people lowball you. And so I hope that you learned a thing or two, and you enjoy this video. If you want to learn about how I argue in court, you should check that video out. It should be at the end of this video. Thanks. Have a good day. See y'all on next one.